Bullet Lavolta, first EP, Taang Records, over here. Have you heard this record? No? Yeah? Let's talk about it. Marianne Moore, a poet born in Kirkwood, Missouri in 1887, a Presbyterian all of her life, who was extremely close with her mother after her father was sent to a mental asylum. She never met her father. Her and her mother were so close that they lived together until Mother Mary Warner Moore died in 1947. An attractive woman who never had any serious relationships and never married, Marianne, along with her mother, moved to New Jersey, then to Greenwich Village, where she worked part-time as a librarian, wrote books in the early 1920s, and edited a literary magazine called The Dial from 1925 to 1929. She lived in Brooklyn for 36 years writing poems about the Dodgers until they left town and she became a Yankees fan, even throwing out a first pitch for them in the late 50s. Also a fan of Muhammad Ali, at 76 years old, she wrote the liner notes for a spoken word Ali record called I Am the Greatest. After her mother died, she won numerous awards, honorary degrees, even appearing on The Tonight Show with Jack Parr. Moore was a perfectionist and often revised her poems years after writing them, only writing 101 poems in her 50-year career. As an example of her revising her work, her most famous poem, called Poetry, which opens with the line, I, too, dislike it, first appeared in her book Observations as a 31-line poem. She released it years later, cut down to 13 lines. Then, in 1955, the worlds of literary culture and mass marketing collided, when Marianne received a letter from a Robert B. Young of the Ford Motor Company asking her to help name a new car model. We should like this name to be more than a label. Specifically, we should like it to have a compelling quality in itself and by itself, to convey through association or other conjuration some visceral feeling of elegance, fleetness, advanced features, and design. A name, in short, that flashes a dramatically desirable picture in people's minds, read the letter. Between October and December, Moore sent Ford a number of suggestions, 43 in all. Here are some of my favorites. The Ford Silver Sword, the Impeccable, Thunder Blender, Anticipator, Thunder Crester, Varsity Stroke, that sounds like, I don't know if I'm say that, Utopian Turtle Top, the Resilient Bullet, Intelligent Bullet, I think you see where we're going here, and then, hey, Bullet Lavolta. Ford did not use any of these names, and they went with the Edsel, which apparently, I'm not really a car guy, was a crappy car. I don't know. Thank you, Marianne Moore, for giving us the rock band Bullet Lavolta, and may you rest in peace knowing a 55-year-old man spent a few hours researching you today. I'm also going to watch there's a documentary about you on YouTube. I don't know if you've heard of YouTube, but there's some stuff on there. And apologies that I didn't cover everything in your life, but I do have to get to this record. People have probably already stopped watching at this point. Every city seems to have one of those bands that are sort of a local secret that everyone loves. They'll forever fill any club in town with reunions or tribute shows. Bullet Lavolta, from me, were one of those bands. Formed in Boston, Massachusetts in 1987, they were initially a four-piece before recruiting Kurt Davis, or Yucky Gipe, as he was known then. He became the singer. Kurt, I think originally from Indiana, designed the album cover of the Zero Boys record. The Zero Boys were from Indiana. Vicious Circle, which is a pretty awesome record if you don't know. Also, in the late 80s, actor Donald Logue was their road manager. I think he managed the Lemonheads as well. He went to school in Boston. Eventually, Kenny Chambers of Moving Targets joined the band as a second guitarist. And man, does he shine in this band. I mean, we already knew how great of a songwriter and singer he is from, his work with the Targets. But when he's left just to rip on guitar, 2 thumbs up. There's some great live footage of them on YouTube, and you can tell, Kenny's having a hell of a time. I was trying to think of other instances where someone, more known as a band leader played in a band as a sideman, and the only ones I can think of are Chris Daugherty, singer, guitar player of Gangrene, played with Jerry's Kids. He played guitar for Jerry's Kids as well as Stranglehold. We'll talk about that later. And Robert Smith from The Cure played with Susie and the Banshees as a guitar player. Which that stuff is pretty awesome from that era. This band plays rock and roll music like a hybrid of the Stooges and Husker Du. Maybe some AC/DC in there for good measure. They were able to play shows with everyone, though. They played with Government Issue, Dinosaur Jr., Rollins Band, Soundgarden, and hey, they played that famous Nirvana show in Boston at Axis the day Nevermind came out. This band called the Smashing Pumpkins played, then Bullet Lavolta, and then Nirvana. And like I said, an amazing show that's been, well documented and bootlegged, I'm sure. They had that sound that could, appeal to punk rockers, alternative people, metalheads, everyone. Thanks to countless, blistering live shows, they've remained a favorite around here. This record, the self-titled EP, is just under 20 minutes. 6 songs of hard rockers. Opener Baggage immediately punches you in the face, and that's it for you for the night. Unless you listen to this in the day. Upbeat and full of yucky screams that could have come out of Iggy Pop in 1969. Guitar solos everywhere. A perfect song to open this record. By the way, side one of this record, which was recorded at the Sound Loft in Brookline, Mass., which is also where Yola Tengo recorded some of Ride the Tiger. Yes, so this side has Corey Brennan on guitar, and side 2 recorded at Walkworth Studios in Brookline, where the Lemonheads recorded, features Kenny Chambers on guitar, who replaced Corey. Maybe my favorite song on this record is the next song, Circuits, a mid-tempo, catchy song that lets you, breathe for a few minutes. Autopilot is great. Some of it reminds me of DC hardcore, or at least music that was coming out of DC at that time, like 86, 87. Side 2 opens with one of their more popular songs, the anthemic Dead Wrong. And you can immediately recognize Kenny's guitar playing on these songs. Song 2, Because You're Mine, is a straight-up hardcore song, complete with, a cool breakdown chorus. Over the Shoulder closes the record, another one of their anthems. It's funny, revisiting this record and the follow-up LP, The Gift, I forgot, how many awesome songs these guys had. The Gift is another one I highly recommend along with this. All their stuff was great, but I think this and The Gift are their crowning achievements. And just so we can get Kiss in to this, because they're in every single episode, Bullet Lavolta did do a cover of Detroit Rock City, which was on an EP that they put out when they were on RCA Records. I think the EP is called Gimme Danger, and that's a good EP. But yeah, they used to cover that, and I think there's live footage of them from CBGB's, which looks packed. I don't know what who they were playing with that night, but the place looks packed, and they open with like a crazy rocking version of Hello There by Cheap Trick. So, if you're doing that at like a sold out CBGB's, that's pretty ballsy. And this record came out on Taang Records in 1987. My copy here I got a few years ago. And I always like this when you buy a used record or a book, and there'll be like an old bookmark in there or a receipt or something. But this one had a flyer for Tragic Mulatto and Warlock Pinchers, who I think at least one of those was on Alternative Tentacles, for a show at the Speedway Cafe. $5 at advance, $6 at the door. And I looked this club up, and it's apparently in Utah, Salt Lake City or Utah. But then on the other side, it has this little thing here. Greg, here you go. Gore, $9.50. NMN, $6.95. Scratch, maybe Scratch Acid, $6.50. Bullet, $6.50. $29.45. $2.25 for UPS. How long ago was this? Jesus. $31.70 total. Enjoy the stuff, Brad. Well, Greg apparently did not enjoy the Bullet Lavolta stuff, because now I own it. And then maybe Brad died. Greg, that's his name? Greg. R.I.P. Greg. I got your dead album here. This is also when, Taang Records, even this early on, was like slinging their shit all over the record, which I guess, labels in the 50s and 60s were doing. But also the reason I was bringing this up, which is another one I was going to talk about, is this Stranglehold record, I got this used like a few years ago, and I think this is an original. It's the red vinyl one. But this has one of these Taang Records for sale things, but it also has a want list on it, which, you know, has the Cramps, Crime, the Dickies, the Damned. And then he's looking for some records by this band that's named after a drink you make with orange juice and vodka. Up here on the top, yeah. So yeah, at one point you could get Screwdriver Records through Taang Records. And he spelled it with a C here. So here's a different band. Good stuff. So yeah, Bullet Lavolta, amazing band. All of their stuff is great. But start here. You can probably find this record for pretty cheap. I looked it up on Discogs, and it looks like it's going for about $10. Also, if you're in Massachusetts, you could probably find this in a store, or in San Diego area. I visited that area a few years ago, and went to a number of record stores, and that's where I got a lot of my Taang stuff. Not at the actual Taang store, but just used stores around there. You know, I got the Seika record and this Maelstrom. And we're probably going to talk about all of those records at some point. I even thought, I know I'm rambling here, about doing just a whole thing on the Taang Records discography. I kind of have a love-hate with Taang Records. I love, you know, of course, all the music, or at least most of the music they've put out. But I was always weirded out about the packaging, and, you know, like the newer logo, I think, has like a bulldog or flames or both, or, you know, but yeah. A lot of great music, so maybe we'll do that at some point. Anyway, this record, you know, was also released in Germany on Funhouse as Dead Wrong on an orange vinyl record, which I need to find because I do like orange records. And you probably don't care what my color preference is for records, so just go out and buy this record. Or, you know, find it and listen to it. It's also on streaming services tacked onto the end of the gift record. So, thank you. Bullet Lavolta. First EP, get it.